You really want your project to work, but it's broken and stuck in development hell. Sometimes you just have to accept your L, cut the losses, and move on. For the sake of your project. Not every project is linear, and especially when you learn something new, you have to adapt instead of brute forcing something that is technically not possible. With one specific project, I had to learn that the hard way. So, I played a game called Ark Survival Evolved for a long time. It's a survival game with dinosaurs. I was playing with different friend groups since it was in early access in 2015, if I remember correctly. I once even tried streaming it, but nobody was watching that at the time. For a few years, a friend of mine was renting a server that we played on, and we were a little unhappy with the service for a while. It was kind of expensive, had a lot of downtimes, nobody knew why, and it was not possible to do much customization in the user interface it gave us. Stopping and starting the server would take forever. But we all thought it was okay and we just had to deal with it. Until one day, everything changed. A big update for the game came out and broke everything. The server, the mods, and even the game itself wouldn't start or even update anymore. We panicked. I plugged the LAN cable out of my PC so Steam would not auto-update. And we researched the topic and everyone had the same issues. It was supposed to be a great update with an underwater world and we were actually excited for it until the day it came out. Reviews were instantly as bad as never before and it broke so many servers and even single-player games. To this day of me writing the script, the update still has overwhelmingly negative reviews. It couldn't even be downloaded for a lot of people because it was so big, like 60 gigabytes big. Not the whole game, just the update. The only solution was to revert the update. The bad thing was that it was not possible on the rented server we had. So my delusional self thought, alright, I can make us a custom home server. How hard can it be? Technically, you can run a server for your friends to join on any Windows PC and just leave it running. That's really easy to set up in like 15 minutes. But I was concerned about the electricity bill, so I researched low usage servers for the home and stumbled upon the Raspberry Pi. I thought that's perfect and it's so tiny and cute and not that expensive compared to the monthly rate of the rent service. I mean, look at it! It is about as big as my hand and not a huge toll on the bill. So I ordered it and was so excited. When it arrived, it felt a little bit like a DIY shelf, but with more steps. I assembled it, and it was my first time putting some kind of PC together. I almost bent some pins and destroyed it completely, but I saved it, and it was fine. I installed the Linux Raspberry Pi OS and tried to install the Arc dedicated server software, and it didn't work. The server could not be installed because there was a hardware error. I'm not an expert in hardware. I didn't know I should have researched anything hardware related beforehand. I was fixating on fixing our game. And I know that it runs on Linux. Turns out the server only runs on Intel and AMD chips. And the brand new hardware I bought for this specific case happened to have an ARM chip, the same as MacBooks with M chips have. And those are not the same thing, and very much not compatible with a lot of software, including running an Arc dedicated server. So I was in denial. For 2 weeks I was sleepless, trying to get it to work with emulators and containers and whatnot. It was the last thing I saw before going to bed and the first thing I did when I woke up before going to work. For 2 weeks I tried to make it work. But eventually I had to cut the loss. It wasn't going to work because of the hardware issue. The Pi is not going to have a different chip, so I had to pause that thought and come up with another use case for it. I searched for solutions. Going back to the rent service was not an option because the server would still not be running on it at all, because it didn't have the customization to choose the version. It just runs on the most recent update and that's it, breaking our mods and forcing us to update our PC versions. I needed a different machine with a compatible chip. So I asked around in my circle and one person had an old Mac Mini with an Intel chip that they didn't need anymore and was so kind to give it to me for experimentation. They said I can wipe it out and put Linux on it. They were happy I found a use for their old device. Not that good with the electricity usage as the Pi, but way less than a whole tower PC running day and night. Win-win for everyone. The trouble didn't stop there because in my experience with Linux, it's always the funniest things that get in your way that would not happen on a Mac or Windows. First, I tried to install Mint on the device with USB stick. The problem here was that every time I tried it, I just had a black screen on the connected monitor. Shouldn't there be a decision screen for the booting method? When I just pressed enter, the Mac would start normally. From Windows, I knew the options were vertically aligned. So I tried to press arrow down and then enter. Nothing changed, still booted Mac. Until I researched how the screen, that was black to me, was supposed to look. It was horizontally aligned. So when I pressed arrow to the right, it booted Mint. Yay! I lost 2 days on this, by the way. Okay, Mint is installed and ready. Wait, I have a lot of errors on the system updates for this. Should I choose a different distro that is more stable? I chickened out and chose Ubuntu, from which I had the impression that it was most stable and compatible, and installed that. Redid the whole process with black screen and arrow to the right, and ta-da! I could update the OS with no errors, install the server, install the mods, load in our world, and we continued playing. That was a wild ride. Do you have any similar stories for broken projects? Drop it in the comments. And the Pi is an absolute banger of a Minecraft server, by the way.